Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Welcome back to the podcast, brother. This is Rhit Moore, past master of Fort Worth 148. That's right, yeah. Still, Fort Worth 148.
It's new, right? Not having to throw that title in there.
I know, right. It's weird.
This is Billy Hamilton, current senior warden for Fort Worth 148.
And this is Gabriel Jagush, junior warden. Yeah, there was a little bit of a stutter there, wasn't there, Rhit?
Yeah, it's like I can't get my rhythm down without secretary in there.
Oh, that's so sad. We'll have to, you're just not right without an office. We're going to have to appoint you to be something.
I know. Actually, do you want to be secretary again, right?
No, we'll see.
We got to give the current one. We got to give Jeremy a chance.
Yeah.
You can be marshal next year.
There we go. We'll see. We'll see where I land.
All right.
It'll be good. You marshal, ritual education, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's a good spot for you.
Yeah, because the marshal traditionally is supposed to be the prompter, so that would be perfect for you.
This is a perfect example of Masonic peer pressure right here. I've said no like 3 times, and you guys just keep on.
Rhit, you should join the York Rite and become a Knight Templar. Don't do drugs, awesome. Kids. Say no to drugs.
That is the secret word of a Master Mason. Oh, man.
Yep.
It's greatness.
Man. So what's on our docket today, Rhit? Do we have any discussion questions?
No discussion questions, because we're just
no discussion questions. What is that?
Everything we're going to be talking about is kind of a discussion question anyway. So,
you mean we're doing a round table tonight?
Round we go.
Woo!
That's exactly right. We're going to jump right into some good stuff.
Take us away, mon capitaine.
So I kind of titled this one Behind the Curtain. I don't know why I said that, but it's just kind of, I guess the first question kind of leads it off that we've developed a reputation with our lodge that I know we 3 have talked about that we feel like sometimes we don't live up to. We'll talk to some of our listeners and stuff like that, and they'll talk about, what they perceive goes on at our lodge or how they feel things go on at our lodge. And it's like,
Yeah. No, I totally get you, because I've had that conversation before, and it is a prime example of success bias, right?
Yes.
Because we don't talk about all the nitty gritty, ugly stuff that goes on, which there's not a lot, but every lodge has nitty gritty, ugly stuff that goes on. And so we only talk about the awesome stuff, and we project this other image. Yes, you're right.
Exactly. And even we talk about things like in a sense of what we think they should be. And people might misconceive that's actually what goes on at our lodge. We may be working to get to that point. Yeah, it's something we've all talked about for a while and are consensus on, but we're not quite there yet at the lodge, so right. I thought it'd be and I thought it'd be a good chance for us to kind of discuss that, because it's not all cupcakes and candy canes.
Oh boy.
So are you going to take us through how the sausage is actually made, and sometimes you see the dirty parts? Yeah,
exactly. And give us a chance to kind of, discuss this, and, that it's okay to stumble. Everybody does that. There's always pitfalls you're going to hit. But I guess the first question I had is that feeling that we have that we're not living up to that reputation. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Okay. So I'll jump in and start this. Personally, I think it's both, right? I think it's a good thing because it shows that we personally are invested. We have such high expectations. We continuously want to see our lodge do better. I think also, though, sometimes it has a bad thing, because I feel like, again, when we do talk to brothers and they're like, man, you guys have a lot of things going on. It's like, well, it sounds like it. you know, and then when you come visit our lodge firm, we kind of have a lot of the same problems that everybody's having, right? And it's like, you know, you have people visit. Sometimes we have people visit us from other states. We had a brother recently who came down from Canada to visit the lodge, and it's like, I wish we had more people here, so it seems a little bit more impressive. You know, but the fact is that we have the same struggles.
Yeah, this past stated meeting, we had a guest from a lodge in Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, and I was like, oh man, I wish this was more impressive.
right.
That's right, we did.
He came a long way, and or you know, and we our other guest was from Arizona, and I won't disclose either of their names here for the sake of privacy because I haven't discussed that with them. But yeah, I was walked away from that going like, man, I wish we had something a little bit more impressive. So this whole thing is the feeling like we should be living up to it more, and maybe I personally experienced a little bit of embarrassment, right? Because whenever I hear the lodge get talked up more than it should be, because there's times when the lodge gets talked up and it's exactly right, and I go, yeah, we did that, we're cool, right? But then there's a lot of times where, hey, maybe we get talked about in a way that is way more positive than I thought it was, and it's a little bit embarrassing. Or sometimes I don't realize that we're actually doing really good at something, and I think we're falling under. And this is what we call a classic case of
imposter syndrome.
So imposter syndrome can be really motivating or really detrimental, right?
Yeah.
Because if you accept the reality of, okay, I feel inadequate, I feel like I'm not living up to this, right? And this is kind of like, you might do this in a Masonic office, or you might do this as a family member, right? Like, or you might do this in your professional environment. Like, this is my life right now. I changed careers, and I am in my career by vocation, but not by education or training. And so, like, my daily life, 8 to 5, is imposter syndrome. And it's very motivating because I'm trying to do this, fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Yes.
Seeking mentors wherever I can, right? And just being willing to say, hey, I don't have the answer to that. Let me get back to you on that, because it looks way more confident than saying, I don't know. So you can pretend like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of times the success or perceived success of Fort Worth Lodge feels, because I'm going, hey, you know what? Like, we're getting talked up here, or we're getting in way over our heads, right? This event has not occurred by the time that this has been recorded, but it will have by the time it's released. Masonicon, Texas Masonicon 2019 is happening, or by the time this is released, will have happened this past weekend. And anytime I think about this event, I experience imposter syndrome, because this is a massive event. At the time of this recording, we have 101 people attending, and we're expecting to get at probably about a dozen more within the last 48 hours of sign up. And it feels crazy that this is happening and that we're pulling it off. But it's all a learning experience, and it's all a process of finding mentors, making contacts, learning new things, carrying forward new skills. But if you let imposter syndrome get to you and you feel like you can't turn it into a positive tool, then it will ruin you, right? Because it'll undermine your... it's a good thing to have your ego cut down. It is not a good thing to have your self-confidence cut down, right? And so it's great to get your ego cut down through imposter syndrome, because it makes you seek mentors and stuff. It's terrible to get your self-confidence shot down because next thing you know, you're going to be running a project, or you're going to be sitting in the East, or, let's say, applying it to family. You're going to be a dad or something like that, and you're just going to be like, I can't do this, right?
Yeah.
And so it creates the difference between I don't know how to do this and I cannot do this. I don't know. It's been on my mind lately, so it's funny that you mentioned it. Sorry for the verbal dump.
Well, and to be honest, sometimes I think maybe we're a little overly critical about ourselves too, because I know every meeting, right? When I was sitting as junior warden, I would sit there and I'd count. I do the same thing now as senior warden, and it's like sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, crap, we only have 22 people here. We only have 28, and I feel bad about that. And then I'll be having a conversation with a brother, and he's like, yeah, we have a hard time getting enough people to show up to open a Master Mason's Lodge, which only requires 3. And you're like, wow, we're, but at the same time, you feel like there should be so many more people here,
Yeah.
And there's not.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt. And for me, it all boils down to, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing that's coming up is the amount of preparation you put into that, what's creating that feeling. Because I've been with you, Gabe, to where there's been moments where I've been embarrassed, like we have an off night on our opening and closing when we have some visitors there that you want to be on your A game. And the officers run a riot and you haven't floor schooled. So, you can't point to any one person and blame anybody. It's all our faults for not doing what it takes to prep to, project that excellence.
We all made that sandwich.
Yeah. But on the
made that sandwich. Okay. I like that.
On the flip side, when we do put in the prep and we get the nod of the hat, same thing like you said earlier, you feel really good because you're like, we did do that. That's right. Yep. That was a good accomplishment. Yeah. And it's all boils down to what you've done in the past, to prep for it.
Right. Like, what are you carrying forwards? Right. So, I mean, the biggest thing is, okay, so you feel inadequate. Okay, so you don't feel very self-confident, and you're not sure where to go from here. That's fine. Find somebody to reach out to. There's always somebody that you can find, whether it's a friend from another lodge or your district deputy, or even, hey, sometimes you'll luck out and you'll call the Grand Master and he'll answer and he'll have some good advice, right? Nobody is untouchable in terms of trying to get guidance. There are people in Masonry that may not have the time to engage in an active mentorship and an active mentorship role with you. But for the most part, nobody is just going to, make you persona non grata just for asking for help, right? There's always going to be somebody that can help you, or at least say, hey, I don't know that, but you should probably talk to so-and-so. So what are you carrying forward? Is it a lesson that you learned from a mistake? Is it a thing that you wish you'd done differently that wasn't necessarily wrong, but could have gone better? Is it a connection or a mentor? So, carry things forward.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, because typically you watch and see most people when they mail in a project and didn't really put forth their best effort and it fails, they look for people to blame. And for people that put in their best effort, they look for ways to make it better. Like you said, they look for those mentors. And that's what it all boils down to. There's just a few spots we've mailed it in a few times.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think everybody's been in, everybody's been in a lodge meeting or, at least during a section of a lodge meeting where they went, oh, man, I just gave this committee report and it was definitely obvious that I haven't been working on it, or we did opening and closing and it was garbage, right? I was at a commandery function recently, or I was at a function performing in a commandery role recently where it got phoned in really hard, and I was mortified to even be a part of the process.
Yeah.
You know, things happen, and whether it's through group miscommunication or personal unpreparedness, all of that can factor into it,
That's exactly
So,
right.
yeah. Is unprepared a
So,
word? I think it's unprepared.
yeah, unprepared. Good catch.
I'm from Texas. We're lucky we speak English.
And it is late, to be fair. Yeah, we've all had pretty full days. It's 2 days before Masonicon kicks off, 3 days, something. I don't even know anymore.
I haven't slept more than 5 hours in 8 days.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
Coming at you like a spider monkey.
So what do you guys feel like are some of the biggest obstacles that we face right now? Go ahead, Billy.
I think the biggest one is the same one that everyone faces, right? Is participation. It's I mean, how many times have we conferred a degree on someone and you're like, yep, never seeing him again.
Yeah.
And what makes it even worse though is when you have high hopes and they still don't show up, and you're like, man, they seem like they were so interested in it, and you start questioning yourself. It's like, were we boring? How did we fail making that connection?
Yeah.
And I think, for me, that biggest obstacle we have is participation, because if we can get that up, everything else falls in place.
So yeah, remember that, because we'll talk about how we overcome that. Gabe, what do you think are biggest obstacle?
I want to drill down into participation, specifically in participation with raised master masons. I feel like our lodge has pretty reasonable participation from our entered apprentices and fellow crafts. There are some of these guys that, hey, I wish we saw you more often. It's good to see you in lodge, like, hey, there are some of these guys that don't attend very often because they can't, or in some cases they lost interest, right? And there's more than a couple of them that I wish I saw more often because I miss them. And it's hard to find time outside of lodge to do that. But but we have, I think, good participation from our entered apprentices and fellow crafts, and from our not yet proficient master masons, right? But we do have issues with guys that are fully raised, and whether they've been a master mason for 6 months or a master mason for 26 years or whatever, I'm making the 6 months and 26 years kind of comparison.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can look at any of the guys, whether they've been in here for months or decades.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of trouble maintaining participation from raised master masons, who are in many aspects amazing assets to the lodge, because everybody brings in awesome talents, whether they know how to run events really well, or they know how to design things really well, or they can make t-shirts and stuff, or they can, or they just have a lot of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
On any subject, or they're great ritualists, whatever. And sometimes it's, hey, we've had kids and I'm very busy being a dad, or, hey, my career is taking off in a really new direction. You see a lot of that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But then there's also guys that they haven't had that, and the primary reason why they don't come to lodge anymore is that they lost interest. And them I feel really bad about, right? Because I understand the guys that have external commitments and stuff, and I know that one day I'll have those, right? But it's the guys who have lost interest and don't come back because they're not interested anymore who I feel like we've failed, right? Like, we can do things to keep them interested, or we could have done things to keep them interested. But now that they have lost interest, it is much harder to regain their interest than would have been to maintain it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I like go through the 5 phases of emotions with people who lose interest too. It's like, oh, then you get mad, and all this stuff. It's like, what did we do wrong? And in the end, you can't please everybody, but that number shouldn't be very high.
Right. And I think there is, so, obviously you're talking about for anybody that didn't catch that, you're talking about the 5 stages of grief. Which, if anyone is not, if anyone's not familiar with the 5 stages of grief, we're looking at denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And, they're not really dropping out. They're not really lost interest. And then you get mad at them for not showing up. That's anger. And then you start trying to either deal with them to try and get them to come back, or you try and make up mind games in your own head as how you would get them back. That's bargaining. And then you get depressed and in a funk, and then you accept it, right?
Yeah.
The problem with and I'm not saying that the 5 stages of grief model is invalid, because it is valid. The danger of the 5 stages of grief model is buying into it wholesale and letting yourself mistake complacency for acceptance. Because if you become complacent, then you're never going to fix the process instead of accepting, right?
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. The bargaining part, doing stuff like over this last year, we've had the 5th Mondays.
Oh, yeah.
Does that feel like we were hitting the bargaining stage of that 5-step process? If you come back, we'll do fun things and we'll take you out and we'll have drinks and, a dinner on the lodge. Just come back though.
Yeah. So does anybody, for listeners that don't know what Billy's referring to for the 5th Mondays, is that this past year we tried a program with the lodge where we held a informal, casual, festive board at an external restaurant quarterly on the Mondays where there was a 5th Monday in the month. And drinks were on the attendees, but the food was paid for by the lodge. And it does feel, I've never thought of it that way, but now that you put it, it did feel a little bit like bargaining, right? Can you tell me more about how you thought of, that kind of popped into your head as a bargaining move?
Oh, no, it's so because I was one of the people who helped propose it, and I thought it was a great idea at the time. And it seemed fantastic, right? Like the first one we had, a whole bunch of people showed up. Brothers we hadn't seen in months, sometimes even years, popped up. It's like, fantastic, this is working. And then as you go along, of course, attendance of that dwindles as well, even though it still seems to have a fair attendance. But you're like, am I doing this because it's something that I really think the lodge needs to do, or am I doing this simply because I'm trying to get people interested again and trying to convince them to come back?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of validity to that. But in the end, if you don't try something, you have literally fallen into the trap of that 5 stages of grief.
Yeah, so I mean, if you fail, keep trying, fail again. Until something works.
And that was successful on so many levels, as almost as many as it failed on,
Yeah. Well, and there's also something we're thinking about too, right? You're talking about, are we doing this because it's good for the lodge, or because the lodge thinks it'll be something that works? A third option as well to think about that I think is kind of dangerous as well is, are we doing this because we, or I, as individuals, feel that this is making me happy, right? Because we see these guys that we haven't seen in ages. We have a lot of activity. It feels good, right? It fires off all your little dopamine receptors, right? Because you see the dude that you haven't seen in forever, and you have a great time, and everybody shares drinks, and it's really wonderful. And maybe, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but maybe it's just benefiting people on an individual level, which is not inherently bad. But if it outweighs the collective benefit, which is the important thing for a lodge, because a lodge is an organization, then you're running yourself aground.
So is it the equivalent of trying to go out and have a fun date with someone when you know the relationship's already failed?
I mean, but yeah, right?
It is, yeah.
Or
you're going to break up with this girl, but you just spent a bunch of money.
Or maybe I can save.
Because it makes you feel better. It has nothing to do with her.
Maybe you can save the marriage by having a baby. I mean, really though. That's messed up.
Insert scenario.
I apologize to any brethren who feel personally attacked by that. That is, I know that is not a funny scenario for people who are actually in that situation. But yeah, right?
It's some truth to that.
It was fun, but also financially, we couldn't hack it too. That was a beating.
Yeah, that budgetary meeting. So I guess that's one of the biggest challenges we have, budget, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, having a good time costs a lot of money, but and sometimes you could seem like, oh, we're doing fine, until you actually look at the numbers, and it's like we're not doing fine.
No, that's what made us dangerous. Is that young and dumb and had a little money in the bank account.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not in a bad place by any means, right?
Yeah.
But there was this, there is this kind of perception of, 148, you guys are the lodge that charges $365 a year in dues. You guys must be doing a lot of stuff and partying it up and all this jazz, or you guys must be rich. It was an accusation that was leveled at me at one point. It's just the lodge for the rich guys. And I'm like, dude, you don't even understand. We've got gigging musicians in our lodge. We've got truck drivers in our lodge. Forget about it. Hell, we've got grad students in our lodge, and they still make it happen. But, people look at that number, and they go, oh, yeah, like, you guys, must be doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And if you buy into that myth, then you're in trouble. If you're in this lodge, right? Because we changed that. We changed our dues to make ourselves self-sustainable because we have good savings, right? And I'm not going to disclose that on air, what those numbers are. But if we ever need them, we can't be running into them all the time. And what happened was, hey, we had a really good time, and we were drawing from our savings pretty consistently. And that's dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole reason why we have high dues is so that we don't draw from our savings, and so that we can avoid drawing off of our interest income.
Yeah.
So
right. Well, and that's something that that money's been built up for the lodge over 100 and we're hitting 164 years now. And that's a legacy that's been left to us. And as principal officers, we have a duty to make sure that it's there for those who come after us, and that's why we have almost a duty of care to make sure that we remain financially solvent. And that's why, even though financially we're doing okay, it's still, when you look at everything we're doing, it's like, okay, some of this has to be cut out. Otherwise, we're not going to be okay.
Right. And you have to look at it kind of like at a strictly cash flow basis, right? Because your savings are for emergency events and unexpected events, right? So you have to look at it as cash flow only. And that's when you start looking at responsible budgets. And we looked at it at a cash only perspective, And Billy, you would say what? At the officers' meeting, we figured out a budget that was effectively cutting the lodge budget in half, right? Something like
Yeah.
that, because that's what needed to be done. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but that's where we're at.
Right. And it reduced the amount we were pulling from savings by. It didn't even reduce all of it. It only reduced it by like 40%. But
Yeah.
it was a step in the right direction.
Mhm.
And the intent is, okay, so next year we're going to cut that by another 40% or 50% until finally we're standing on whatever we pull in every year. That's what we're using for our expenditures every year. And we're not
Right.
relying on, granddaddy's money because he left that there for a reason.
Mhm.
And how many organizations do we've all heard of, whether it's lodges or chapters or councils or commanderies or Scottish Rite valleys or shrine temples. They don't call them mosques anymore. Shrine temples that have gone under, right? Or even if it's just, a family business that it doesn't have to be a Masonic institution. But we all know organizations, whether through the news or personally, that have just sunk because they were eating away their savings, right? And it is just brutal because you look at that and it's like, hey, this is an organization that was around for 2 centuries. Hey, this is an organization that was around for a century. And we, the generation before, we stomped on it. The generation before us stomped on it. The generation before them stomped on it. And then we finally got around to where it just so happened to be that our generation, carrying the same pattern of behaviors, stomped it to death,
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's why they have that phrase. What is it? From short sleeves to short sleeves in 3 generations. Because most things are, you have something fantastic, you build it up, and 3 generations, it's gonna get.
Yeah. No, and the budget actually this year kind of was the cure to, I think, one of the big obstacles we're facing, because we have a lot of new guys with a lot of enthusiasm that have big ideas. And we were putting so many things into motion, not realizing the fact that we haven't quite been seasoned yet enough on how all this process works, because we're still at the point of, we've got a lot of guys who are master masons, but as you said, participation, you see most of the guys on probably a biannual basis. There's a handful of guys that we see all the time. I would say 20 to 25 that just rotate through that we see all the time. But the rest of them you see kind of on that biannual basis. And some of them you can even depend on to help. And as those numbers start building, that's when things will start. We can start re-implementing those things that we cut out, where our dues will cover festive boards on the 5th Monday if we want to do that again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, I have a relevant quote that's tied to the short sleeves to short sleeves thing. So this is from Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum. So is also known as Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum. And he was the ruler of Dubai from 1958 to 1990. He was the prime minister of the United Arab Emirates from 79 to 90. And he has a very famous quote. And it's about Dubai's oil. My grandfather rode a camel. My father rode a camel. I drive a Mercedes. My son drives a Land Rover. His son will drive a Land Rover. But his son will ride a camel. And so it's kind of this idea like, hey, it all goes back to the earth eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's you're always going to hit them obstacles.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is every lodge will someday end, right? Like whether your lodge has to merge with another lodge or it splits in half and becomes unrecognizable from the original lodge or it just straight up demises, right? every lodge will end someday. And I'm not saying that, we're going to have so many we're going to lose so many members that Masonry will die out. But just the reality of it is, eventually the human race will go extinct, or the lodge system will change fundamentally, or whatever. We could totally reverse the flow of membership rates and be growing crazily, and we would still lose lodges for whatever reason. Our job is to make sure that we're not losing the lodge because of a financial reason. We want, 100 years down the line, if it becomes, illegal to operate as a Mason and we lose the lodge because of that, then fine. But it won't be because we were financially irresponsible.
Yeah. I mean, buildings only last so long. We got to prep. Every lodge should.
Yeah.
A little bit of preparation. So, I think that kind of covers obstacles. What do you guys see as some of the pitfalls that we actually hit? I hear the gears turning. You want me to give you mine?
Yeah. Lead us off, right?
I think the thing that really hit us hard is the just we kind of veered from our culture. We got the shiny squirrel syndrome because, everybody joins Masonry. We're all pretty much alike on that pursuit of being a better man. But kind of what we want to do to engage in life. We have a lot of different personalities in lodge. Some are really into charitable events, some are into degrees, whatever, take your pick. And we started trying to fulfill all that, and we got away from the core of what got us to that point.
Okay. So we tried to be everything to every member.
I think that's a good way to put it, although we didn't go that far. But, take the golf tournament that we tried to plan. I mean, it was a great idea, and we need to definitely do something like that in the future.
Right.
But we didn't realize we didn't have the troops, or we probably could have pulled it off if we would have really put in the effort. But what little effort we did put in, the main stuff we needed to be doing was suffering.
Yeah.
And so all those little projects we started, eventually it came to the point to where, I know it wasn't but a couple of weeks ago, where we needed to do an EA proficiency. We didn't have enough. Granted, a lot of us were out of town, a lot of the key players, but that shouldn't be an issue with the lodge. That's...
Yeah. Well, and I was there that night, and the
only one of us three, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying this is an attack on you guys or anything like that, because we knew that you guys would be out of pocket, right? Like, we knew, so that was planned for. That was not a problem. But what ended up happening was that we thought some people were going to be there that are almost always there that weren't there. Some people had to cancel at the last minute, that kind of thing. And, I was sitting there with this candidate, and I had to tell him, like, hey, man, like, we'll have to try, like, next week or 2 weeks from now or something. And he got really, really frustrated. And I felt very badly for him because he was upset. And I totally got it, because we told this guy, hey, your EA proficiency is going to be on this date. We're going to make this happen. It's going to be great. You've got the work down pat. It's going to be good. And I fell through on this dude, and it felt bad, And we've had a couple of other incidents where we've had to reschedule stuff or improvise wildly. And that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So communication is a challenge.
No, and we just got so busy with everything. Everybody's drained.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the pitfall that I see then, I mean, and this highlights it perfectly, is this feeling like the lodge will be okay if we don't show up. Well, if you have enough people feel that way, You're not going to have anybody show up. So
Yeah.
there should be a sense of urgency.
Mhm.
And so maybe that's it. It's like, it'll be fine. I don't need to be there. That's a pitfall that I think you can fall into. This feeling like, oh, well, someone else is going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Well, what if everyone else was expecting you to be that someone else?
Yeah.
No, and ultimately that's what it's all about, is being that someone else. That's really what makes a Mason. We are that someone else. It's like we show up.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's, and this is a kind of a cliche example here, but it's a silly play on words that kind of hits hard, right? It's a short story about four people named everybody, somebody, and anybody, and nobody. And so there was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. So, yeah.
Seems like I've heard that at some point in my life. That's greatness.
But I mean, and it's a bit of a cliche, and I've seen that post. I've seen that post on Facebook and LinkedIn a bunch of times. Which I don't know why I cited LinkedIn, but here we are. But yeah, it burns. It burns because it's like that prisoner's dilemma. If everybody thinks that the lodge will be fine, then the lodge is not fine, and so it's just you got to communicate. Hey, we need bodies, even if you don't have a part. Just be in the seats, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we lost sight of, is how important that is, because if we actually think back to our degree and what it would have felt like if you would have seen just your lodge room halfway full, if not 3/4 of the way full, how would that have affected your initiation into this fraternity? It's only going to be a positive thought. And it's like that hopefully should start motivating you to get there. Even if you don't participate in degrees, I get it. It may not be your thing, but you show up to them every once in a while. Stated meeting even kind of lends a little bit of that credence to it, because you're going to find your mentors up there. Hopefully going to be able to find some mentors up there. But, supporting the business of your lodge, that's important. You ain't got to go to every one, nor degrees, but it's got to be some kind of support along the way, because that's where I see the old glory days of different, because I don't think men changed that much. I don't know that back in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, there were 200 guys showing up every time the doors were open. I think there was kind of a core group. And again, there was a revolving door of men that were coming in, because every time the doors open, there were 200 plus men signing in the 30s and 40s. But it wasn't the same guys every time.
Yeah, it's a different group
it was
every
a larger
time.
Yeah, because they had a long tradition of father-son. And we're 3 or 4 years into a growth spurt. So we don't have that, rotating, hey, we see guys biannually, but we have 250 of those guys. So, that's quite a few guys that we see 2 times a year. And when they pop in, sure, they can play a ruffian, because they've been a Mason. They know how to do it. Oh, you need somebody to teach EAs? I can do that. And then you won't see him again for another 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And we don't have that luxury right now.
Yeah. And, and folks, we're not just complaining for the sake of complaining. This is kind of pulling back the veil, right? Because we talk a lot about the business of the lodge on the podcast, and everything is, usually hunky-dory, or we kind of glaze over stuff really easily. And yeah, it's good to talk about the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, I mean, there's something in sharing the woes, to where it's like, oh, okay, It's not just me.
Yeah. Well, and
You
if
know,
anything, I feel good about this, right? Because it's being honest, right? And it's being
Yeah.
upfront with this. Hey, like every lodge has these challenges. And the thing about these challenges is that I feel optimistic about them, right? Because in the present day, does some of these problems suck? Yeah, a lot of these problems suck. That's the nature of them, right? But I feel really optimistic about them and about solutions that we have for them. So,
Yeah.
Well, and just like you say, every lodge has these problems. These problems have been here for years, right? They're not new. I've been a member of 4 different lodges now in 3 different states over 20 years. Every lodge had the same problems. The question is, so how do you deal with it? How do you address it? How do you fix it? That's really where you see differences pop up. But every lodge has the same issues. Some of them do a much worse degree than others, but they're a concern no matter where you go.
Yeah. So that kind of takes me full circle back to how do you think we cure participation? Do you got any hot off the press ideas, Billy?
So for me, honestly, I think I believe a lot of things in this world could be solved if we were just a little bit more nicer to each other. And I don't mean, like bend over backwards and kiss each other's butts. I mean, just let someone know you appreciate them showing up, right? Especially if you're a principal officer and you see a brother you haven't seen in a while. Go over there and tell them, hey, I'm really glad you showed up. I hope to see you next time. The guys who were there every single time, let them know, hey, it's really important to this lodge that you're here and you never fail us. And I wanted to say thank you. It's little things like that. I think that will help with the participation, and it'll help. Again, once you fix that participation, I feel like everything else will fall in place. But I think we've gotten away from that. We're so focused on the problems, we sometimes overlook the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it for sure. There's no doubt. And we've been talking about that a lot recently of the Rhit, Gabe, and Billy bubble at Lodge, to where we'll just be walking in and we'll say hello to everybody, and then we'll start gravitating towards each other and be like, hey, what do you want to talk about on the show next week? Or whatever it may be. Did you hear about this? And next thing you know, 45 minutes have passed and we're just in our own little world.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and so I think part of it is the pie chart, right? So, and here's where shout out to Roberto Sanchez, because this is on page 88 of his book, right? You have a Masonic pie chart of things that lodges are interested in, and quadrants, right? Where lodges excel. And you have ritual, philosophy/history, philanthropy, and fraternity, right? And so Roberto has that in 4 equal slices. And that's just a symbolic describer, because one of the things that he talks about is that some lodges are going to have much bigger slices for one aspect than the other, right? So, like, you might be a really big fraternity lodge, right? Or you might be a really big ritual and philanthropy, or philosophy and fraternity, or whatever, right? You're never going to have a lodge that is all 100% equal in everything. Now, here's where I think that the model is not accurate. It's not so much that you're going to have different slices of the pie in size. I think one of those is going to be the crust of the pie that holds everything together. Yeah. And so it's good. It's to the point where it's not that your lodge excels at one thing and then this thing, and then maybe they're good at two other things a little bit, right? It's that one thing will be so important to the lodge that if you do not have it secure and stable and as strong as possible, that you won't be able to hold everything else, right?
Mm-mm.
You know,
Yep.
you're not going to end up with a pie. You know,
And
it's going to be a mess. So
yeah,
for Fort Worth Lodge, one of the things that we did was say, hey, we're going to schedule third Monday will be a degree practice. Fourth Monday will be a degree night. First Monday will be education. Second will be stated, things like that. And we said, we are going to schedule these things and make them happen that way. And this is the way that the lodge is going to operate. And that's not a bad idea necessarily. But what happened was that we were trying to give more equal parts. We were trying to do the festive boards for the fraternity aspect. We were trying to do education every month for the education aspect. And, we had ongoing philanthropy projects and everything. None of that is a bad thing. But what happened was that we took away our flexibility to engage in ritual all the time. Because for Fort Worth Lodge, ritual is the crust that holds the entire pie together. For other lodges, that may be philanthropy. For other lodges, that may be education. But for us, the crust that holds everything together is ritual. And when I got initiated into Fort Worth Lodge, it was every single week we were doing degrees, and sometimes twice a week, or we were doing degrees and a degree practice, later on in the week, or, we had 2 degree practices for a Master Mason's degree the next week. And we made time for education every once in a while, and then we kind of went back at it because we were just going at breakneck speed and total insanity, right? It was awesome, and it's a good thing. And when we weren't doing degrees, we were doing proficiencies. And yeah, it was awesome. And what we did was take something that was not broken and we tried to fix it. And it bit us really hard. So.
No, and we started trying to stack all that stuff onto officer duties and, the guys that were the ritualists that were doing that part of the work, in the lodge. And now they're trying to be a part of these other events as well. And it just started melting that candle at both ends. There's so much to stick into your, what got you to where you are, what we like to call your culture, because once you stray from it, it's game over. It's a slow burn too.
Oh yeah. And it's just, it's really just brutal because you don't know it until it happens. So.
No, and that's it. And there's a little bit of wisdom to some of those grumpy past masters, on keeping some of the things that you do the way they are. And that's why it's so important to identify your culture so you can realize when that grumpy old guy's telling you the truth and he's not just being grumpy.
Okay.
Because he's speaking from the heart about your culture. And, because I just visited a lodge to where their crust is charity and they raise so much money and they're so close. And man, it was so inspiring to be around. And that's what they do. They don't falter from it. And they're doing a lot of degrees too, but it doesn't get in the way of what their crust is. So take your pick, man. So that does kind of lead me into the next question. How do we prevent the degree mill feeling? Because I really feel like that's what zapped us last time, is whether it was us thinking that in the back of our head or there was a good sales pitch by another brother in lodge on we need to do these kind of things. I know I got the feeling, and I know we talked about it, years ago, or, whenever it was, to where we kind of felt like that's all we were doing. is degrees. How do we prevent that from sneaking in again?
The answer, in my opinion, actually, let me rephrase that. The answer that I will provide outside of closed doors is do it anyway. Gun for it. And if all you're doing is degrees, hey, you're making masons, you're engaging people with ritual, and you're going to see really big crowds if you're a ritualist's lodge.
Yeah.
If the ritual is the crust that binds the lodge together, then that is what is going to be a success. When you feel burnt out, take a break. But don't change your programming. It's okay to have an interruption in your daily scheduled programming. It's not okay to cancel the programming entirely. So that's what I'm going to say is don't care. The concept of a degree mill is somewhat foreign to me as long as you are providing a meaningful experience that actually educates candidates and provide benefits for them as a person and develops them emotionally, spiritually, and masonically.
I think you bring up a good point too of train your replacement. Start immediately. You know what I mean? Don't get trapped into a single role that you never can. Like if you're not there, the degree can't happen kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Because that's how you do get burnout.
Yeah. So hey, if you can't make it, let everybody know. Hopefully a couple days in advance, right? And say, hey, I'm not going to be there tonight, and that's okay. As hopefully you let everybody know in advance. And if, as a lodge, you feel burnt out, take a night off. Take everybody out to a restaurant. Go have fun. Or do an education night or something. You don't have to do the same thing every night. But, that's for us as a ritualistic lodge. If you're an educational lodge, then, do education as much as you want to. And then take a break whenever you want to, Same thing if you're a fraternal lodge or if you're a philanthropic lodge. Do what you do as often as you need to do it and as often as you want to do it until you feel like maybe you need a break for a week and then get back right to it after that.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of wisdom in that, say your lodge is kicking butt because you're selling hundreds of raffle tickets. Well, you're not going to be able to sustain that for the next 10 years. But if you train somebody, and then they train somebody, you could possibly sustain that. And that applies to any of those.
Well, and also what I suppose I'm getting at, though, is if somebody feels like they're burnt out or if the lodge is feeling burnt out on your primary bread and butter, pie crust aspect, you don't have to change your strategy. It just means you have to take a breather.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. Is like, obviously you have a point there with training your replacement, but what I'm getting at is don't try and change who you are or what your lodge does just because you feel burnout. Burnout is not a symptom of necessary change. Burnout is a symptom of necessary refreshment, right? Yeah. So
a little reflection time.
Yeah. Don't change what your lodge is, unless obviously, like if you have administrative problems or if you have financial problems, yes, change your lodge. But don't change your lodge just because you're feeling burnout. Change it because you need to, and then in all other times, just take a breather.
Yeah. Because there's absolutely something to it. Just don't let that breather turn into 6-7 months.
I feel personally attacked.
No, it's so easy. You fall out of habit.
So that was really long-winded, but that is the answer that I will provide outside of closed doors.
Right. Well, and I think if you find yourself doing that many degrees, one, make sure that you're doing the due process, Gardner Westgate, because you can always be a little bit more selective if you feel like, you're running all these degrees, but you're not quite getting the quality candidate that you're anticipating. So, I mean, but that's a bit of a different issue. I think if you're doing so many degrees, though, on qualified candidates, you should be able to put together not just your primary ritual team. You should be able to put together a secondary ritual team. And now that would give some relief to those brothers that are consistently doing ritual.
Yeah.
I know there's some parts that I do that I do it so often that especially when it comes to commandery, that when I visit, it's like I'm asked to do those parts. There's something really nice about showing up and saying, "Hey, do you need any help?" and having someone say, "No, just sit and watch." And it's like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can, and if you're bringing in that many candidates, start working on putting together, an alternate team that can relieve some of the pressure on your primary degree team.
No, there's no doubt to that. I mean, it is one of those things that just doesn't happen overnight. It's a tricky process, because like I say, keeping guys engaged, and because it brings up a good point too. Like for us, we are raising so many guys, and not that I think we have raised at any point guys that aren't qualified to be a master mason, but sometimes I see guys that we've raised, and it's like, we get along swimmingly with everybody, but you can tell they don't quite fit what we're selling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if there were another lodge close by that had, a lot of charitable activities going on that was just bumping, we could look at potentially sending some of these new candidates that express a big interest in that there. But we're kind of at a catch-22 because I'm not saying that there aren't lodges around that aren't doing charitable activities, but I don't think to the level that these guys are, looking for. Because, when they come to us in the middle of downtown Fort Worth, most of the lodges close, they don't have quite the age group that we offer. And that's the biggest kicker of all, you know what I mean? That's our biggest selling point. I think the point that I'm ultimately trying to make is that when we get guys that come in, they may want to do activities that we don't participate in a lot, but ultimately they choose to stick with our lodge because of the age group that they see.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with proximity because, there are a lot of lodges in Tarrant County that share the same success that we're having, but they may not be close to these guys that are petitioning. And some of the lodges they visited, they just didn't feel like they fit in for whatever reason. And, I wish there were more clear-cut cultures out there.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to somebody online like yesterday actually, and he was like, "Hey, I've decided to call it quits. I'm with this lodge. I'm not a Mason yet, but I've been investigating different lodges and visiting, and I've visited this lodge for like 2 months now, and I just know that I'm not a good fit for this lodge. I'm gonna go visit the lodge." And it's like it wasn't that far. Like there's multiple lodges in this guy's town, so it wasn't like a huge thing for him. But he had been visiting them and trying to get to know them, and he'd had a good time with some of them, but he just didn't feel that click.
Yeah.
The satisfying snap of the puzzle pieces as they get together. It just didn't feel that, and I was like, "Hey, that's totally okay."
Yeah.
Well, so when I have someone who asks me about masonry that I don't really know very well on a personal level, so if I know you well, then I could usually recommend, yeah, you'll fit right in with us, or I think you may be more interested in this other lodge because I think they're interested more in the same things you are. If I don't know the person very well and they're asking me about masonry, I always recommend visit several lodges and find one that feels right. I made that recommendation to someone that was actually coming to our lodge, and he actually found a better fit with another lodge closer to his home. And I take no offense at that. I'm like, if you're happy, go to the place where you're actually going to want to go there. You know?
Yeah, like if you're having to drive an hour and a half or even, an hour, and I know there are people there, it's pretty commonplace to drive an hour to lodge. That's not a problem. But nowadays, with how busy everyone is and how overworked everyone is, are you really going to drive, like, let's say you have an hour from your job to your lodge, and then maybe an hour from your lodge to your house? Are you going to have a good time with that? No.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're going to have a terrible time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or at least if you're starting off.
Right. Well, and by the way, backtracking about the comments about showing up and, being happy that I don't have to do a part. I'm more than happy to help in any part. But there's something nice about being able to just watch a degree. So I just want to backtrack on that a little bit.
No, and I think that kind of reinforces the point that we were talking about earlier of you've got so many guys that are showing up that have practiced for the part. You may see us there only every once in a while, but I can help when I'm here. Eventually, there's going to be a lot of guys that don't have to help. They can enjoy watch on the sideline. Their turn's coming.
Yeah.
But this time you get to sit on the sideline.
Yeah.
And I definitely get a huge kick out of being part of a degree. Like, there's a dopamine / adrenaline rush that is incomparable. But there is a very pleasant satisfaction about sitting in the sidelines and watching a degree. Like, I get to sit and observe it I get to be a more mindful observer, and that's a very different environment from being a mindful conferrer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you see things that you're like, hey, next time I do this part, I'm going to do it just like this guy did here because it's better than what I do.
Totally done that.
Sometimes you yeah.
Oh, yeah. I stole stuff all the time. Although I still struggle with, I don't get to work in the degree. Oh, man. I feel like I hadn't been picked for the ball game. It's like, come on. Can't I do master ceremonies or something?
Just something small, please. You got any more of them degree works?
Yeah. So I think we can kind of wrap up with this last question that I've got on here.
Sure.
Okay.
So, magic wand, what's the one thing you would change? Either lodge activity or, dealing with that stuff or dealing with membership itself in general.
So we can't change results, but we can change something that achieves results? Or what are the rules here?
Basically that you can change anything that the lodge does itself or, kind of overall of the members, in general, how the members interact with the lodge. So essentially an activity that we do or how those members engage in that activity. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much anything you want to change.
So if I had a magic wand, I would love to see. So our lodge rooms are bigger than most lodge rooms that I visit. Right, we're incredibly blessed to be in the Masonic Temple in downtown Fort Worth. I would love to see the asylum on the 4th floor during a degree packed. Like that is the one thing that if I had a magic wand, I'd love to do. And when we had the Grand Masters Conference there, we came very close to filling it, but it still wasn't filled. I would love to see that room like it used to be back in the day when Worth Commandery had 2,000 Sir Knights that were members. Our Fort Worth 148 had 2,500 members. There were times I still hear stories from the older members saying, if you showed up late, you didn't have a chair. I would love to see that one more time. Well, for me, it would be the first time, but I'd love to see that happen one more time.
That's a good one.
You actually said exactly what I was going to say, because my specific answer would be I would love to wave a magic wand and move the charter of Fort Worth Lodge for a night to the asylum upstairs and confer a Master Mason's degree with a full house. And
Yeah.
that you had the exact thing in my mind. I'd love to see attendance be more than 100%, right? Because we're talking
Right.
here, hey, it doesn't have to be 100% of your lodge, but I'd like to see more than people that are in your lodge. That would be amazing. And I am thinking about the Super Excellent Master's Degree event, which was it was interesting degree and everything like that. The primary thing that I found that was the coolest about the whole day wasn't the degree itself. It was when we were obligated. We were obligated in the Red Room of the Masonic Temple where Texas Council meets. And we took the obligation for the Super Excellent Masters, which for anyone that hasn't taken an obligation Masonically before, the guy that's conferring it upon you says, okay, you're going to announce your name and repeat after me. And then he says pieces of the obligation and you repeat after him. Granted, I think most people that listen to this podcast are Masons, so I don't know why I'm explaining it, but whatever. We had 140 something people in that room.
Yeah.
All repeating the obligation at once, and the resonance of the room was thunderous. It was incredible. And
Right.
so to see a room filled like that, that's my magic wand. Whether it's the commandery filled to overflowing, or one of the lodge rooms filled to overflowing, or the chapter room. Wow, what a sight that would be. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
We need to figure out. Do y'all know how many that seats up there?
I don't know. Honestly, I thought it seated more than we had, but we were standing up because, the officers of our home chapter were standing so that way our guests could sit. So, there wasn't an empty seat, but I could have sworn that we seated more than 100 in that room.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, no, I'm blanking on it. It's a lot of people. It's not an insignificant amount of people. Yeah.
Seems like it was 250 something, right below 257 or something, but I could be making that up.
Are you so you're talking about the Fort Worth Lodge room?
No, that seat's 168. I know.
Oh, you're talking about the commandery room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we still had space in the commandery room, but it was impressively filled with seats. But yeah, the red room, we ran out of chairs. We had to stand up.
That's awesome.
There were probably, I don't know, 15 of us sitting in the west, or standing in the west because there was no place to sit.
Yeah. Interesting.
What's your magic wand, Rhit?
I think something that really, I think, has highlighted as we grow is having a spot to fellowship. I love that building we're at. I'm never leaving that building. But there are some cons to sharing it with so many, because you're sharing it. It's not your building alone. So you can't start a game of cards or dominoes and leave the dominoes on the table and come back tomorrow night and they're still there, kind of thing. It has a different kind of feel. So my magic wand thing would be for us to have some place or some traditional kind of way that we fellowshipped and had a place we could go and just kick our heels up and be brothers, And, that lodge I visited last night, they have, it's just them in that building. And they talk about some of the things that they come up there and do. Every once in a while, a couple guys will sneak up there and, they'll cook fajitas and watch a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of get away from the house for a minute. And it's not impossible to do that at the temple, but it's pretty tough, and I get jealous about it. It's like, man, I wish we had that flexibility.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
mean, I'll tell you that would be an amazing experience to have. My first thought is of Guthrie Scottish Rite and their cigar room. They've got like a man cave type thing, and it's a cigar lounge. And we have a cigar lounge that is no longer used as a cigar lounge because of health concerns, obviously, and stuff, and City of Fort Worth regulations. But, we have a lounge, but it doesn't get used very often because the air conditioning is rarely turned on that floor. And and it's not a very private area. And
no, there's no private area in the temple.
Right. And I had a great experience. I visited a temple in an unnamed location in an unnamed jurisdiction with some unnamed brethren, and we shared some scotch, in the lodge building, and everything, to my knowledge, was above ground and legal, and we just hung out, and it was great, and it was a good time, but this is like their, I want to say like sole proprietorship, but that's not correct. It's a single tenant building. They're the only organization that meets in that building, and that's it. You don't have anybody else renting it or anything like that. Like, they don't even rent it out to non-Masons. Like, that's it. They just the lodge, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. We hung out in their, I guess, dining room, right? I would call it like the dining hall, and just sat and BS'd and talked and had conversations all the way from super serious to super hilarious, and just hung out and, had a great time. And that's something that you can do to a limited extent at the temple. But primarily, where people hang out is off-site. And I wish we had like my dream is like a little pub. Like have a little like English pub or something like that in the basement. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Or someplace close that served good nachos and beer.
So I visited a lodge on the East Coast that so you walk in and the ground floor is the dining area. Then you walk up and there's the lodge room. And then after the lodge meeting, you go down into the basement and they have their own little pub set up, and it's just for them. It's just for the members and their wives. And they invited me to stay after the lodge meeting. But, unfortunately, I was in town for business and I had snuck away to attend lodge. I was like, sorry, I've got to go because I have early meetings. And, I drove quite a bit to get there. It was almost an hour away. So I'm like, I really wish I could stay. But, at the same time, I was kind of jealous. I'm like, man, what a setup,
Yeah, there's something to, that sitting around chatting that kind of creates that participation and all that, the fellowship, or what I'd call the foxhole mentality, where it's like, if he's going to be at lodge, I'm going to be there. That's all created through that fellowship. And sometimes it gets a little harder to do when you have a building you share with so many bodies.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, if I had a second wish, it would have been while we were taking that super excellent master's degree, if James would have slipped in "We Are Borg, Resistance is Futile," because it had the total tone of the Borg Collective. It would have been fantastic.
Oh, that would have been great. Yeah, no, if I could have a second wish in addition to my first one of a packed house, it would be to have a full-blown, pub / country club / whatever type feel, like just like a lounge, a full-blown lounge that, you know, you could responsibly enjoy an alcoholic beverage. And I would say cigar, but I know too many brethren with asthma or who just virulently dislike tobacco. So, you know, just a drink lounge.
Right.
A drinks lounge would be my second magic wand wish. Just
Yeah, I mean, if you got a magic wand, we'll make a room that has fans and
yeah.
you can go in there and smoke. Well, I mean, we all know that if you actually have a magic wand and get a wish, you wish for 1,000 more wishes. So, you know,
Right.
we would have a second wish.
For sure.
But you know, yeah, that would be fantastic to have an area where we can enjoy adult company and adult beverages and activities, you know, within reason while still exercising the cardinal virtue of temperance.
Yeah,
Yep.
because everything that we do that we're super proud of at our lodge very rarely gets planned at a stated meeting. It's finalized there, maybe voted on,
Yeah.
but it's all planned around on a bar stool or around the dinner table or something like that.
Yep. And I mean, a lot of it is also digital too, but I mean, face to face is so much more worthwhile. You know, I one of the things that I tell people about last year's Texas Masonicon and about this year's Texas Masonicon is that not a single aspect of that was ever done with a group meeting in person, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, how fun would it be to have a group meeting in person where you're just like, hey, like, let's just do this over drinks, you know, at the temple, you know, where you say, hey, because we can do a face-to-face meeting over drinks anywhere we want, but the temple is kind of like our place, right? It's our little
home ground.
It's home away from home.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the attitude that I want to push when we get to lodge, right? The message that we're sending when you walk back into lodge is welcome home.
Welcome home. Be responsible.
Yep.
All right. Quote of the week, or this is a Masonic fraternal quote. What did I say Masonic for? It's getting late. Fraternal quote of the week is, well done is better than well said, by Brother Benjamin Franklin.
Ooh, Right Worshipful Past Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania and its jurisdiction.
Actually, yeah, he was past Grand Master of 2 different jurisdictions.
Was it Maryland?
And they had I don't recall. I remember there was a falling out, and because they couldn't
That's
come to an
right.
agreement, that's why he didn't have a Masonic funeral.
Oh, Benny Frank. He was so cray.
Oh, buddy. Oh, you know what? They're not the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge. They are the Right Worshipful Grand Lodge.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
I don't either.
Their official name is officially the Right Worshipful Grand Lodge of the most ancient and honorable fraternity of free and accepted Masons of Pennsylvania and Masonic jurisdictions thereunto belonging. That's their name.
Can you imagine being the Tyler? First year, have to announce that DDGM title.
Oh my gosh.
Of the Right Worship Grand Lodge.
Peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm going to look up what his second jurisdiction was that he was past Grand Master of. Here it is. Let's see. Now I'm just wasting time.
Yeah. Gabe, you want to throw out contact info?
Yeah. If you want to reach us, you can find us at www.fortworth148.org. You can contact us at Fort Worth Lodge at fortworthlodge148@gmail.com. Texas Masonicon will have come and gone by the time this episode is released, but you can still learn more at texasmasonicon.com. And yeah, that's it.
Yes. And let's see, next year's 2020 Masonicon will be on July 25th. So mark your calendars.
July 25th, 2020.
Yep.
What are you doing to my calendar, Rhit? You're putting things on there a year in advance? I'm kidding. I already have things 3 years in advance.
Well, gentlemen, I have enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully we don't make too many people mad. It's all in good spirits. We love everybody.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, none of this is trying to dig up any dirt. These are really the same issues we're all facing these together.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we don't talk about them, we're just going to doom to repeat them.
Yep.
Learn from my mistakes, man.
If you have ideas, shoot them to us. We're more than happy to take your advice for some of this stuff. Or if you have problems that you want to share with us, email us, fortworthlodge148@gmail.com, and tell us about your woes, and maybe we can provide some insight, or you can teach us something. I would love to see that. So
it's easy to do, too.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, I've enjoyed it. It's getting late. This is Rhit Moore signing off.
This is Billy Hamilton signing off.
And this is Gabriel Jagush signing off.